This is a 100-year-old lens, and I am very curious to see what kind of image quality it can deliver on a modern cinema camera. But this lens has no aperture and no focusing mechanism, so I need to find a way to adapt it. While hunting for weird vintage cameras at a French flea market, I came across an old woman selling century-old objects. One tiny blue canister looked promising. When I opened it, I saw something beautiful. I asked for the price, and the lady, who clearly didn't care too much about photography, answered €3. Without hesitation, I bought it. From that moment, only one thing was on my mind. Can I actually make this lens work again? This lens started its life in the late 1920s, attached to a Foth Derby, a compact folding camera made in Germany. Foth wanted to build a camera to compete with Leica. While Leica pushed 35mm film, Foth's engineers bet on the slightly larger 127 roll film. They designed a camera smaller than a Leica, but with a large negative for better image quality. Most consumer cameras of that era had slow lenses, but this 50mm f2.5 was remarkably fast, designed for portraits and low-light photography. It was a highly desirable camera, even used by Alfred Hitchcock in his 1937 film Young and Innocent. Ultimately, the 127 film lost popularity. These medium-format cameras couldn't compete with the cheaper, lighter compacts that fit right in your pocket. Foth didn't survive World War II, making this an incredibly rare piece of history. Finding a second-hand Foth Derby is unusual. Finding just the lens is even rarer. The lens itself is simple, but it lacks almost everything needed to make it usable. After analyzing teardown videos of the original camera, it was clear the aperture and focusing mechanism were missing. Someone removed the lens from a Foth Derby and placed it in this blue box, perhaps to fix a camera later, but later never came. To make this work, I need a way to focus and control the light entering the lens. First, I tried adding an aperture behind the lens and screwing it onto an helicoid adapter. The focus worked, but the tiny size of the lens combined with the placement of the aperture created massive vignetting. Since adding an aperture wasn't an option, I needed to mount an ND filter to reduce the light for shooting outside on a sunny day. The front of the lens is so small that standard ND filters won't fit. Fortunately, I found a macro adapter with a very interesting feature. You can drop an ND filter into the back of it. This solved the problem perfectly. Now that I can focus and control exposure, it's time to test the image quality. For the first time since it was placed in that box decades ago, this lens is going to capture light again. This is perhaps the most surprising thing about this century-old lens. The center of the frame is incredibly sharp, while the edges gently fall into a blur. A natural, dreamlike effect that takes you back in time. The lens produces a nuanced swirly bokeh in the out-of-focus background. It is subtler than a large Petzval lens, but it gives the footage a distinct character. you immediately notice the beautiful glow around the highlights. Without modern chemical coatings, bright light scatters between the internal glass elements, creating a soft diffusion. This naturally baked-in effect gives the lens a deeply nostalgic feel. You can try to recreate this on a modern lens with diffusion filters, but they rarely match the subtle quality of the Foth lens. With this lens, my adapter's minimum focus distance is around 30 cm. But if I pull the lens out slightly, I can focus up to 20 cm. It delivers excellent subject separation on a macro level. Since this was a very fast lens in the 1920s, it gets great results in low light once the ND filter is removed. Paired with the high ISO capabilities of the FX3, the resulting look is a mix of archival and dreamy. This experiment felt like time travel. The world has changed in incredible ways over the last 100 years. Yet so much remains exactly the same. The image quality from this tiny lens evokes an era that is long gone. Yet, its influence remains visible in modern photography. That's why I love using vintage lenses. Using forgotten lenses and cameras has the power to make you see the world differently, changing how you appreciate the present moment. If you're more into lenses with insane swirly bokeh, you might want to check this out. After more than 10 years of testing strange and beautiful vintage projector lenses, I've finally gathered everything I've learned into one complete guide. It's called the Projector Lens Handbook, a 130-page ebook packed with my best advice for getting incredible swirly bokeh and unique cinematic images using cheap forgotten lenses. Just click the link in the description to grab your copy. Oh, and if you are a channel member, you get 30% off.